Hello, beloved.
Welcome to the Sacred Sister podcast,
where we normalize the magic
and sacralize the mundane.
In this podcast, we open up dialogue on metaphysical subjects, self-healing tools, expanding consciousness, and deepening awareness.
To support you in co-creating a life full of healing, meaning, and magic.
I'm Britt, a self-study entrepreneur, spiritual wellness coach, and self-healing song channeler.
And I'm Hannah, an astral researcher, priestess, and inner peace and transformation coach.
And together,
we're here to serve as your Sacred Sister.
Let's dive in. Hello, beloved, and welcome to another episode of Sacred Sister Podcast. If this is your very first time tuning in or listening to us here, then we send an extra special welcome to you. We hope that you enjoy this episode, and we hope that it really activates you, at least sparks curiosity in what your own process is along the topic that we're going to be deepening dialogue on today. So, Sofia Sundari. She's an international transformational leader, a bestselling author, founder of the Priestess School and the Serpent Mystery School, and the world-leading authority in the Yoni Egg practice. She's also a facilitator of courses on sacred sexuality. This is her zone, her realm of work. She helps people rediscover the innocence and sacredness of their sexuality and start experiencing their open, unashamed eroticism as a portal to the sacred within. It is such a blessing when we really come to know what we desire to experience in this human life, whether this is along the lines of deeper confidence and embodiment within the self, stepping into our leadership or our limitless potential, coming to know what our purpose is here in this life. Whenever we really allow ourselves to align with that energy, and the ways that the opportunities and teachers and things just start popping out to us saying, here it is, beloved, I received your sacred request from the universe. I am here to be your guide. I am here as a teacher. I am here to help walk through this life with you. Sofia touches on synchronicity in this episode, and Hannah shares the way that we were synchronistically led to Sofia Sundari. Hannah and I both had been speaking on deepening sexuality and our sensual practices and intimacy, trust within our own marriages. And the way that Sofia popped up for us was so beautiful. So I know that in these intros, I usually share the ways that we were introduced to the guest, but today Hannah is going to be sharing that story inside of the episode. We hope that by sharing these synchronicity stories on Sacred Sister Podcast, that we can at least be offering our own lived human experiences, if for no other reason than to lay that foundation and lay that platform out for our audience to let them know that signs, synchronicities, miracles in an array of different forms are ready and available to us whenever we feel like sinking into the possibility that there is something to be experienced in the human life than maybe we are accustomed to, or that maybe we've ever felt into before, or that maybe we were taught doesn't exist, or that maybe we should get our heads out of the cloud, or maybe we should not be so filled with imagination. These are the things that can start to shut us down and dwindle the connection to the divine. And we are so grateful that someone like Sofia Sundari is feeling the call, feeling the impetus, feeling the desire to step into this role of helping men and women in their individual sexuality and also as partners. You can find all of Sofia's contact information if you are feeling the call, if you feel that maybe she is to be a guide or a teacher to you as well. She has many an online course and books and schools that you can visit, in-person experiences. We hope that that is of benefit to you, and you can find the details in the description box of this episode. Thank you so much. And if you do enjoy Sacred Sister Podcast, we do invite you to leave us a review. Let us know what it is that's calling to you in this episode, the curiosities that we're sparking. You can do this by either leaving a star review or writing us your own personal insights in the comments section. So now let's head into Hannah's astrology segment, and then we'll dive into the episode. Enjoy!
Hello, everybody. This is Hannah, and this is the astrology section for Sofia Sundari. And this is something that we love to do in Sacred Sister podcast because we love to look into the astrology of each of our guests to see how these archetypes are manifesting themselves in their lives. So for this one, we're also going to be looking at what I like to call the sacred trinity, and that is the sun, moon, and rising sign. Those three are pretty much a really nice way of looking at the personality as a whole. If you wanted to do like a really short, quick astrology reading. Obviously, there's so much more to astrology, and we would have to look into the full natal chart and dive deep, and it would take hours and hours. So we're keeping it quick and short and sweet. And so let's focus on the sun, moon, and rising sign of Sofia Sundari. So her sun sign is in Cancer, and the sun shows what do we focus on in this lifetime? What is our way of expressing ourselves? And Cancer is a cardinal water sign, so it's about emotions. I really like to see Cancer as a river, and it's coming from this heart-centered approach of life. And Cancer is the archetype of a nourisher, of the guardian, of the intuitive. So part of Sophia's way of expressing herself is coming from that point of being heart-centered and intuitively guided through life and allowing herself to really express her emotions, her vulnerability. The way that she shares about her life is so vulnerable, right? Like sacred sexuality. Not many people like to talk about their sexual life and talk about these deep and very vulnerable subjects about life. And Sophia is not afraid of doing that. Sophia is not afraid to diving into the waters of our emotions, of the soul, and to really discover these beautiful ways of creating a emotionally vulnerable relationship with each other. This really deep, intuitive, sacred relationship. And so her moon is in Capricorn, and that's very interesting because the sun in Cancer and the moon in Capricorn are opposite from each other. So that means that Sofia Sundari was born around a full moon. And that creates a very specific kind of personality because that is usually someone who really loves to bring out the inner workings and showing them to the outside world. So the moon symbolizes the subconscious, our inner emotions, and the sun, obviously, the sunlight is being reflected on the moon, and on full moon, it is fully shining onto the moon. So the sun being the conscious awareness of Sofia Sundari is fully shining onto her innermost self. So this is also where she allows herself to really be vulnerable and share her inner processes and share that with others to help them become a better version of themselves, to help them live a better life. And this is where the Capricorn comes in, because Capricorn is the archetype of the boss and the manager, the builder, really wanting to be the best, wanting to achieve and be ambitious and successful in their endeavors. So Capricorn, with that energy, she is able to work hard and be focused and disciplined and manage and create structures. And this is how you can see, like, she created a mystery school, she created a priestess school, she created all these different services that she gives to the world, and she's literally building up her authority in this business of sacred sexuality. And it's interesting too, because she's going to tell us a little bit about her past, and the moon actually stands for our past and what is our comfort zone. And in Capricorn, it is also about following the role and taking care of the responsibilities and doing what is expected. And that is really the path that she went on before. She was a lawyer, and she really tried to be what is expected from a Russian woman and try to fulfill that role, which is very much her moon in Capricorn. But then she realized, nope, that is not that heart-centered approach of her sun, because that is what is opposite of her moon, right? And she started to find a way to combine both of them, to still feel that she is doing her best and achieving on a high level, but at the same time, it's coming from the heart, and it's something where she is really emotionally invested in it. And this is how she is creating these beautiful ways of allowing people to create that sacred sexuality and that sacred relationship with one another. And then her rising sign is in Leo, and I love it so much because whenever we have strong Leo in our chart, the hair, we can see the mane. And with Sofia Sundari, she has this wild curly hair, the wild mane, and I love it so much, how beautiful she embodies her Leo rising. And then it's also, with the rising sign, it's like the mask that we're wearing, the avatar that we have incarnated into. And for Sofia Sundari, it's an avatar that has this powerful and fierce and radiant aura that she's spreading out into the world. Leo is the star. Leo is the entertainer, the creative. So allowing herself to be that creator is really important in her life, and to be playful and have fun and bring joy into her life, but also into other people's lives. And you can see that with her services of Limitless Love, the online course, the online tantric course, and activated woman, activated man, and really allowing herself to create new ways for people to connect deeper with their feminine. So Sofia Sundari is the heart-centered nourisher that builds new ways of connecting to the feminine and allowing others to shine their light in a powerful, fierce, and radiant way. So if you're now interested in finding out more about your archetypes and your sacred trinity, I invite you to check out my website, hannahchristiansen.com. And when you scroll down, you see the zodiac signs, and you can click on your sun, moon, and rising sign, and then download the free archetype playbook. And that is going to help you to embody those archetypes on a deeper level. There are some keywords for each one of them, a description on how you can really powerfully step into that place of leadership. And also at the same time, there are some journaling prompts that will help you to connect with your archetypes on a deeper level. So I'm really excited for you to check those out. Feel free to send me any questions that you may have. And yeah, that is it from me. And now let's, without further ado, move into the beautiful interview with the radiant, fierce, powerful Sofia Sundari. Enjoy.
Oh, sacred sister, a kindred flame, may we light one another. From the ashes rise, oh, we rise, oh, again.
Okay, so big welcome to everybody who is with us today. So we'll start by settling into the body, into our intimate connection with this very moment. And our body is that portal through which we can really access life in this very moment. So I invite you to close your eyes and turn your attention inwards. And place your hands on your lower belly. So So sometimes we notice that our belly becomes very tight because of habit or because of what we learned. And here I will invite you to reframe this pattern or this conditioning and actually loosen up the body. Because as we're loosening up the body, we're also loosening up the emotional and energetic flow in our system. So now every time you will inhale, you will make your belly bigger. And exhale with a gentle ha sound through your mouth. Inhale, making your belly bigger, filling up your whole belly with air. Exhale. Inhale and visualize that there's a light spreading through your whole pelvis. And your whole pelvis becomes like a bowl filled with light. And exhale with a gentle sound. And continue like this, directing your energy, directing your attention into your pelvic bowl, feeling how your whole energy is relaxing, the tightness in the pelvis is relaxing, clenching, tightening of the pelvic floor, of the genitals is loosening up. Continue breathing into the pelvis and into the lower belly. And now you can start rubbing your belly with your hands, vigorously activating the skin, rubbing the whole area of the lower belly, your groin, also the thighs, the inner thighs, and then rubbing your hips, so your bum, the lower back, sacrum area. So coming up a little bit on the back, you're rubbing your kidneys, and coming back to the front of your body, bring your whole pelvis, and then bringing your palms along the central line of your body to the heart, and also spreading this warmth over your heart area, your breast if you're a woman, you have breasts. And continue breathing deeply. And then again, rubbing the whole pelvic area, pelvic floor, groin, kidney area, sacrum. And then collect all this energy and rising it up by bringing your palms along the center of your body to the chest, and then just resting your hands over the chest, in the center of your chest. You can place one hand over the other. And just tuning into your heart just now. Just feel into how is your heart right now? What is present in your heart in this moment? Yeah, you can become intimate with your heart now. Accept, allow. This sacred moment with yourself. In the midst of any kind of busyness, any kind of agitation, you can always turn in, even if just for a few seconds. Rest in this heart. hold this heart. And then maintaining this state of connectedness to yourself. See how you don't need to abandon yourself no matter what. And now we'll just practice this throughout this whole session. So staying connected with yourself and so connect with us and all the things we're about to share with you. Okay, so passing it on to those lovely hosts. Very happy to be here today with you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful, so grounding. I love how you brought up all the energies from the lower chakras up into the heart. And we're going to talk more about all of this. I'm so excited to have you here today with us, Sofia.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very, very happy to connect with you too and share about things I love. It's always great to talk about things when your work has to do with things you love the most.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this last night, really preparing for this interview and thinking, wow, I am so excited for her to share a bit more about her past and what brought her onto this path and that transformative transition that it seems like you made that I've just heard pieces of the story from, because it seems like you've been doing this your whole life. The wisdom that flows out of you is just it's so potent. And hello and welcome to the listeners as well. We want to let you know that we are entering deep dialogue with Miss Sofia Sundari today. She is a Tantra teacher, and Hannah and I are actually students of hers that we're going to be sharing that story of how we came to know Sofia and the ways that she's helped us transform areas of our lives as well.
I would love to know how it all happened for you, Sofia. What is your backstory? How has your life transformed?
Yeah, well, there were a few pivotal transformational points in my life that I feel like those, sometimes we cannot really understand what's happening in our life in the moment, but always in hindsight or in retrospect, then things make sense. Always, like there's no accidents in life. That I really believe in this, that everything makes sense when we look at it back. So whatever moment you listeners are going through in your life right now, and know that in retrospect everything will make perfect sense, and everything is so essential to really going where we're meant to go. And I believe we're all meant to go to a really magnificent place in this life. So what happened to me, like there were two really important moments that really shook me, because I used to be a girl who grew up in Moscow in Russia. As Russian women, we all have this very strong conditioning that basically our life becomes a success when you get a good education, then you get a good husband. Work doesn't really matter, but you have to get a good husband, and then as soon as possible you make good babies and have a good house and make a good life, basically. This is success for a standard Russian woman, and that's what the idea that I grew up with. And that had to be really shaken very strongly. And first point where I got really shaken was when my best friend died. So I was living just normal life, like hoping that eventually my life flow into this correct way of getting a good husband and all of this. So I was, just living my life, seeing my friends, hanging out, trying to make some relationships work. And then all of a sudden my best friend dies. And that just somehow shook me from the core. It came so unexpectedly. And in that moment, it was such a shock, such a stress. But something in me started to disidentify everything that I ever believed about myself. And that revealed it. Like I started to behave in a way that I never knew myself to be. It's like a higher presence started to move me, and I knew exactly what to do, acting with total clarity, with total precision. I knew exactly what to do, how to show up, what are the priorities. And at that time I was kind of considered to be quite aloof and kind of a bit naive, kind of this girl that was looking for herself. And then with his death, something in me just revealed itself. So that was a really strong first moment of this awakening for me. So something I knew that life cannot be just, I cannot just flow with life like in this conditioned old way where the society is taking me. It's like I had to get slapped on my face and just understand that I have to wake up. I have to take charge of my life. I have to find my direction. And then about a year after that, another huge thing happened. It was that I got fired from my law job. So I was a lawyer, and like also that was a huge shock for my system. Another pointer that just my life was not going in the right direction, and it was like a big slap on my face. And I got so lost and so confused and so broken, and I was like, oh my god, like what was this life like? I don't have a job. My friends, I don't really resonate with them so much anymore. I kept like trying to date all those men, and all those men were totally unavailable emotionally. It's like I would fall in love with all the wrong people. Like all the right people, I just was not attracted to them. All the wrong people, I was like, yeah, come join the party. And I was always getting so hurt in those relationships, and always hoping that I will find that one who will save me and take me on to that right river to nice house, nice marriage, nice babies, and all that. And it was just not working, and nothing was working. So everything what I was ever thinking that was solid and stable in my life was just crashing. And then something pinged inside of me, and I was like, okay, I need to change my life, like fundamentally. I really need to change. And then I started to inquire inside. I was like, okay, how can I change this? I cannot look for another law job. Although it took a few months, and I was thinking, okay, I need to find another law job. But I was like, no, I cannot do this. This is a betrayal to my heart. What really makes my heart beat? And then I remembered that I was in India about a year before that, and that's where I felt really happy, because I was touching something which was so new, so subtle, and something in my heart was getting opened and activated. And practicing yoga, that's another thing that I knew, that I'm touching something sacred in that, and no one could explain to me what exactly it was, but I knew that I'm touching something there. And so miraculously, it all aligned. I managed to make some money. Some clients appeared who actually wanted me to work for them. I didn't care less. They couldn't care less that I don't work in the office. They were like, okay, we need you to make for us what you are good at. You know, within my law specialty, I created the thing for them that they needed. I made some money, which was like really little money. It was just like $5,000 or something. But I was like, okay, I have this money, and I'm just going to Asia. I don't know how long it's going to last, but that's all I have. I have one-way ticket to India, and I went. And then it was just amazing what was happening there. It was just, doors were just opening. You know, it's like I made that first step on the right track, and then doors just started opening, and then the right people were coming, and then I would overhear a conversation, this and that and that. And eventually I went deep into yoga, and after India, I spent a month there. Actually, a funny story, like you want specifically to know how I came across Tantra for the first time. So I met the guy who was very excited when he found out that I practice yoga. He was like, oh, you practice yoga? I'm like, yeah. Like, do you know something about Tantra? And I was like, no. He's like, no, but you practice yoga. You need to know about Tantra. And I was like, well, tell me. And he's like, yeah, we do all these cool things. You know, I have this partner. She sits on the opposite side of the room and we enter into simultaneous orgasm. And I was like, wow, that sounds really weird. And then, slowly we became lovers. But the only thing I found out with him that was different, because I was like, okay, he's tantric. Let's see what this tantric lover is doing. He must be like special, like, I don't know, maybe he knows some special points on my body and that makes me fly away or continue orgasm. None of that, okay? None of that was happening. What was happening, though, is that every time he would ejaculate, he was starting to swear really, really hard. He is Russian, so he was swearing in this really horrible Russian. I was like, oh, this is really weird. I don't know why. Maybe he has a lot of pain. Maybe he has a lot of pleasure. But every time he ejaculates, he's swearing so bad. So fast forward, like about a month later, I am in Thailand and I come across this yoga school. They tell me, oh yeah, we have all this here. You can do 4 years of yoga. We have so much amazing yoga, all these programs to practice. And I was like, wow, yeah, great. That's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, you go into all those subtle ways. You really learn about your chakras and how your energy flows and luckily get to know. But what is even better, she tells me, and it was a Spanish lady on the reception who is now my friend, she tells me, but what is even better is that tomorrow we have a Tantra workshop starting. And wow, Tantra again. Oh my God. But I was so intrigued, so I went for it. And it took me a moment to decide, but then I went for it. And then I found myself in a room with 100 students. And the teacher there for 7 days, he was giving us all the information, the basics of Tantra. And he was speaking about how Tantra is a spiritual path, how sexuality is just a part of it that is embraced, that is not denied like in all the ascetic paths, that our pleasure is sacred, that our desire is sacred, that the menstruation for women is like also the way how our sexual energy moves, and that it's actually not healthy to bleed a lot. And I was always all my life thinking that it's healthy for me to bleed a lot, and I was trying to induce more, like my menstruation was not regular, and then I was like, oh, like not sure what exactly is happening. And so I was explaining some really important things which felt so natural, but no one was talking about them. And I also found out why he was swearing, that guy, because in Tantra, as you know, as you've done my online course, you know that men are advised to master their ejaculation. So not to ejaculate compulsively, but ejaculate when they choose. Because with ejaculation, men tend to lose their vital energy, and they don't want to do it, because if we do it as practice for cultivating our power or our spirituality or our love or whatever else the man wants to cultivate, he doesn't want to lose his vital force. He wants to preserve it. And so every time the tantric man ejaculates, it happens impulsively, so not by choice, he feels like some men tend to punish themselves for this, or they feel like, oh, I'm upset with themselves. So that's why he was actually swearing. So this mystery revealed itself to me.
What a story. Wow.
I'm like over here crying. That's so good.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I love your name, Sofia Sundari. And I feel like it makes so much sense with your mission in life. But can you explain a little bit what your name means and where it comes from to our listeners?
Thank you so much for this. It is in fact a special name for me. And Sofia is my birth name. So it's what my parents called me, and it's a beautiful name. I feel like if my parents did one thing well, they gave me a good name. I really love it. And Sofia, like in Christian tradition, it's actually the goddess, basically, the life itself. That's how they call Sofia, and Logos. So Logos is that masculine principle, and Sofia is that feminine principle. So I love it very much. And Sundari is my spiritual name, and it means direct translation is beauty. But for me, it also associates with the goddess or cosmic power, because in Tantric tradition, we work with the energy of life, of the universe, and they are divided into 10 different powers, cosmic powers. It's a power of the cosmos. And one of them is called Tripura Sundari, and that's the power that I feel very much in resonance, and it's very much like you pointed, it's very connected to my work and specific way in how I transmit teachings in this world. And Tripura Sundari, her name is translated as she who is beautiful in the three worlds. Through the beauty of the physical world, she can remind us of the beauty that never passes, of the beauty of the subtle world, and of the ultimate beauty, which is the beauty of the divine. And then also she's very linked to the desire, the energy of desire, and how it's like this paradox. And Tantra is so beautiful in that, I don't use so much the word Tantra actually in my work anymore, because it has so much confusion around what it actually is. But in its essence, there's such beauty, because we can take this mundane desire, even we can say, okay, the desire, but if we are not spiritual practitioners, then we get lost in desire. Then we want more and more and more, and we never get satisfied. Mm-hmm. But with that essence of Lalita Devi or Tripura Sundari, she goes like, okay, we can have all this desire, but we can actually source it to the original source of all desire, which is the very first desire of a human being, to return back to our original nature, to return back to our true nature, that is divinity.
Wow, beautiful. And I feel like you already started to explain a little bit more about like what is Tantra. But for someone who has like never heard of Tantric sexuality or Tantra, how would you explain what it is?
Tantra is a spiritual path, and we can say it's an esoteric spiritual path, because we know, like, for example, Hinduism, in India is a religion, or Christianity, or Islam, and then within Islam there is Sufism, so esoteric path of part of Islam. In Christianity, the Gnosticism, the esoteric part. So Tantra, in a sense, it also is that, like in the history. Although I find that the roots of Tantra, they go way, way, way deeper. Tantric principles themselves, like they start actually way, way, way before the start of Tantra, because like as this spiritual way, Tantra is dated like, sometimes 3,000 years ago, sometimes a bit more. Even in ancient Egypt, which sometimes like when was the Egyptian civilization really there, like sometimes they say 9,000 years ago, sometimes even more. So it's really, really ancient. The principles of Tantra were embedded there as well. So it's something really, really ancient, just that it has been taking different names throughout the history. So it's like painting the context here, but basically what it is that it's a path that a path to the divine, a path of spirit, a path of recognizing the spirit, but not as something that is separate from us, some place to go to, but it's something that recognizes that the spirit or the divinity is within us, and that is within all things, that is within life. So instead of abandoning ourselves and repressing desire and disconnecting from energy, on the contrary, in Tantra, we are invited to go into it. And through that, discover spirit. So through earth, it's a recognition, there's this intrinsic worship of the feminine, because the earth and life is seen as a representation of the feminine and intrinsically divine. So life as itself, it's not something that makes us confused and polluted and lost, like in many traditional spirituality is said. Here in Tantra, it's recognized that on the contrary, it's actually when we go really deep into life with total openness, with total presence, there we recognize the intrinsic divinity of life. And then sexuality. How come sexuality comes in handy? Sexuality is the primary energy of life. Sexuality is what created us. That's what makes it possible for us to be here, to talk to each other, for you to be there, listen. It's because sexual energy created us. So it's a fundamental raw force of life, of existence. Basically, all energy, sexual energy, is just translated in different ways as we go through life. So that's why sexuality cannot be escaped here. Yeah, it's not all there is. There's so much. Yeah, but sexuality is that root. So I love going directly to that root. It's tricky, yeah, because it's a taboo area. For many people, it creates a lot of reaction, a lot of unease when we speak about sexuality. Maybe even for you listeners just now, maybe it's like, oh, immediately start painting pictures. What is sexuality? Maybe you've been abused when you were a child and there's a challenging association with that. So there's a lot there and a lot of trauma stored in our sexuality. So it takes a lot of courage to be able to really address it and be with it. So thank you so much for being with us in this conversation. It takes courage to open to that.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing all of that. As someone who I know a few years ago, before getting curious about entering this spiritual path, I came from a huge background of having a lot of shame around sex and sexuality and being made not to touch myself from my parents from a very young age. And I think a lot of us have those kinds of associations from when we were younger, when we were children, things that have happened to us along the way. And just now, like discovering, I guess I've been seeing it as like a door that I kept closed for a long time, that I was told to keep closed for a long time. And I just didn't really question it so much. And I was very resolute in the beliefs that I had, and, that it was okay for me to be super separate from sex and sexuality and exploring that realm for a long time. And then now opening it and being on the other side of that door and experiencing how my energy has shifted in so many ways, how my relationships have shifted, how my business has shifted, by, acknowledging that I have some power within me and, exploring these things that I was always taught were very shameful to even think of myself. It's been such a powerful shift. And I think for Hannah and I, it just gives us so much more impetus and so much more inspiration to open these conversations with people and say, you don't know what you don't know. And the timing is perfect, that we've kept ourselves separate from something for a long time, but always keeping that curiosity inside that says, what is it that I truly desire? And whenever you start asking those questions, I love how you mentioned in your synchronicity stories too, that the opportunities start coming and the workshops are there starting tomorrow, the teachers pop up, and this is exactly what happened and how we were led to you as well. So
yes. And I want to share the story. I'm so excited to share it. I'm still in awe by just thinking about the story, how I got led to you, Sofia. So I've been interested in tantric sexuality for a few years, and I got books and read a lot of articles about it. And I always tried to tell my husband, bring in some information about it and bring in some little tantric exercises here and there, or read to him from the book. But it just didn't work as well. And often he fell asleep while I was reading him to him. And then I was okay, so this doesn't work this way. So I really want to find a way to bring this new, deeper level of sexuality into our lives. And after I got pregnant and I gave birth to my daughter, it was very clear to me, okay, I really, really want to bring more of that sacredness and more gentle lovemaking into our life, right? So I was wondering, okay, is there a way to maybe go in some sort of workshop together with my husband so that he can learn it from a personal relationship with a teacher? It's just instead of me trying to teach him with me not even really knowing what I'm talking about, but, reading it from books and then trying to tell him about it. I'm okay, we need to have a direct teacher that we can both learn from. But then I thought, there's no way. I don't see us going to a tantric workshop at this point in person with someone. So I thought maybe there's an online tantric workshop somewhere. So I set out the intent. I want to have an online tantric workshop together with my husband. And as soon as I sent that out, I got this little message in my ear, got this little voice that said, Sofia Sundari. like literally. And I was like, Sofia Sundari, like, what? Like, who is this? And then I like Google Sofia Sundari, and I find you. And then I realized that I've actually followed you on Instagram before. So subconsciously, I must have already like tuned into that energy, but consciously, I wasn't even aware of it. And then I'm like, I wonder if she has online tantric workshops. And I click onto your link tree. I see, yes, you do. And not only that, but you also had it on special on that day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so that is it. That is the sign, obviously. And I call my husband and tell him about it. And he's like, yes, let's do it. Super excited. I call Brittany, tell her about it. And then she's like, yes. And yeah, and then we all signed up.
Yeah, exactly. I was at the same spot with Curtis. And I remember you telling me like, oh my gosh, I just got this message and I looked up this woman. And not only that, but she has the online courses. And we were prepared to sign up for the course without even knowing that it was on sale. And then Hannah goes, oh my gosh, and it's on sale.
Wow, perfect. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yes. And it was just so transforming, just like Brittany was saying, like really opening this new portal to our intimacy and like a new sacred level to our marriage that it has brought to. So grateful. And this is really where we see when we set these intentions and just allow life to communicate to us and, you know, bring in these new teachers and workshops, even if we feel like, no, this is not what I want, but the life gives it to us, and just taking it as a sign and being like, okay, this is it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to experiment with this. So this is why we're here.
Exactly. And going on to a stream that both you and I had in common, Hannah, was a question that we got on Instagram as well. And I'd love to bring it into the conversation. It says, how can I introduce my partner to Tantra when he has no spiritual practice background? And this isn't necessarily the case for both of our partners, but we wanted to bring that in and ask you that question, because I'm sure there are a lot of people listening that are like, wow, this sounds really cool and really good, but maybe my partner wouldn't be so interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a beautiful question. And I love, Hannah, how you were sharing about your experience and this really honest recognition inside that I should not really become a teacher in my couple. And it's really tricky, actually, even if you have more experience, like Liz have more experience than Hannah had at that point, still it's actually not really recommended, because mostly it's women. Okay, let's be honest. Like mostly it's women who are like, yeah, like, oh my God, I want to do it. I've been already doing this and this and this and that. And then here's something I can help my partner into. Oh yes. And men are like, oh. So then the thing is that what you can do is one thing, which is most important, is just start really practicing yourself, whatever is available. Yeah, now we are offering those online free practices. Like now I have this thing with the Priestess School women. We're offering every day, and people are just doing them every day. And they're like, oh my God, I feel like my energy is moving, everything is changing. So the results are very quick, especially for women, because then I started working with women, because women are so sensitive. They just feel everything. You know, you just like create a space of integrity for women and just guide them a little bit, and they just feel everything. They don't even need to do much. That's what I love to work with women originally. So when we go into our own practices and we feel everything, then you just start to radiate. Then all of a sudden you're like, the way you move is different, the way you feel, the way you express your feelings is different. And this is just magnetic. People are like, ooh, like there's this radiance activated. Sometimes women are very beautiful physically, but they don't have this magnet, and they're not really attracting people towards them. They don't have this warm feel around them. But then some women, doesn't matter what's her appearance, but she is gorgeous and she can be radiating this. And this is a woman who is embodied, and this is a woman who is rested in herself. So this is what the sacred sexuality or tantric practices do for us. So when you are in that, and then you come to a partner and he's like, hey, I discovered something, do you want to join? He's much more likely to say yes to that. Yeah, because from the space from where you're coming, it's not that, oh, our relationship is not working, didn't fix this thing that you promised to fix 5 years ago. Like, it's not the place to invite the person in. Yeah, it's not from a place of judgment, but from a place of like, oh wow, I'm enjoying. Come join me in this enjoyment. So this is one thing. Another thing is that again, like, you don't really want to have this position of a teacher in a relationship, because it automatically puts you into the masculine role, and then it's very hard to balance it off. Because most of us women, we want to be in our feminine in the relationships, even if we have successful business, want to like achieve things in life, which is more like our masculine direction. Still in the relationship, most of us want feminine, and then if you put yourself in the position of a teacher, it might be very hard to balance it off again, to bring yourself back into the feminine. So best to invite a third one, just like Hannah did, and Brittany, like to say, it's her, she knows the thing, so let's go listen to her together, and together we'll be guided. So I find that that's the best way. And then it also takes away pressure from you to really explain to him exactly why he needs it and all of this. Another thing that I have now, and that's also I find that's really, really important right now, I'm very motivated to work with men, because I feel there's so much for women. There's also some solo practices that men can do by themselves. So sometimes this can be also a good gateway for him. He might feel a bit insecure to do it immediately together with the woman, and he might feel like, oh, I don't know anything, you're already much more advanced than me and all those things. So he might feel a little bit uneasy about this. So maybe sometimes for him to start his own practices could be beneficial. And then there are like beautiful practices for men. I also have an online course for men. You probably know the Activated Men, where actually men are invited to do their own practice of connecting with their genitals, of connecting with their masculinity, of understanding what the hell women want in the end of the day, and just how to penetrate a woman fully and penetrate the world also fully.
Yes, and I love how in your tantric workshop you also have interviews by men who, are really sharing their journey, and I feel like that has helped my husband to connect with it on a deeper level as well, to hear other men talk about it.
Yeah, same. I would love to touch on something that Hannah mentioned in her story earlier, which is that after she gave birth to her daughter, she noticed that she really wanted to invite in some more gentle lovemaking practices. And I loved the way that you talked about the sexuality emanating differently in each of the chakras. I had never really thought about that before. I work with the chakra system all the time, and I thought that was a really beautiful approach to take. And I was wondering if you would open up about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So as I said, sexual energy is the basic energy. That's what created us. That's what, like, the primal raw energy of life. So it is expressed, emitted, received through 7 energy centers. So the chakras, many people are familiar with the chakra system now, although they say that we have, like in human design, for example, they say we are much more evolved than that. We have more than 7 chakras. But still, it's a very beautiful system. The energy centers that are located along the central channel, the central line of our body, our spine. So on the level of the first chakra, it's sitting at the level of the root, at the level of perineum. That's where the sense of this earthiness, earth element is connected to this chakra, and that's where our primal side stays. And so on how sexuality expresses on this level is in this animal type of sexuality, and it can be quite intense. This is not something you imagine when you think about spiritual sexuality, but actually it is very spiritual because it is an expression of life. And on this level, it's raw, it's intense, it can be involving hard pounding, it can involve like slapping, but in a specific way, because we also can slap in different ways, the spanking. So there's this heavy, it's like elephants, imagine elephants making love, so that's the kind of sexuality there. And some people love it, and some people just, they need this kind of sexuality. If they don't get this kind of sexuality, they don't feel satisfied. So for some people, it's a bit like, oh my, that's the one I hate the most. But sometimes, you will feel allergic to that. But there is a beauty in trying to explore all of them. Then on the second chakra, it's the most kind of stereotypical type of sexuality. This chakra is related to element of water and just generally our sensuality and how we flow through life. So it's like this, imagine wet t-shirts and walking under the moon, this romance and making love in water and very wet kisses and the undulations. So this is the second chakra, the kind of the house, the normal place of sexuality, let's say. So most people are quite familiar here, although also all of these places, sometimes like if you're really allergic to this type of sexuality, it can also indicate like a certain trauma on this level. So it can be also addressed through the practices. Then on the third chakra is related to the element of fire. And this intensity and this outward movement, normally this dynamism. So on this level, sexuality looks like a bit like tango, dancing tango together, or martial arts. Sometimes there's a bit of that element in sexuality. Also, conscious BDSM, bondage, domination, submission. There's a big difference in unconscious and conscious approach to those things. Mm-hmm. So on this level, like the dominance and the submission, this is expression of sexuality on this level, and also can be an important place to grow into or to explore. In order to explore also this dominant part of our being, this part that knows what she wants or what he wants in life and how to achieve it, and how also allow yourself to be like guided by someone who really knows how to, because some of us are like, oh, my dominant people, but it can actually indicate that there is a discomfort on this level within yourself. Mm-hmm. Then on the fourth level, it's the heart chakra and the element of air. So it's more of this very light and tender and heartfelt type of sexuality. So this is the type of sexuality that many women crave, but they never know how to ask for it usually, because in this type of sexuality, sometimes we can slow down everything and sometimes just merge and just melt together without even moving. But in those moments where you feel like your vagina, your yoni becomes one with your heart, and just making love and that just flow of the heart in the being in the heart together. Sometimes you can spontaneously praying together or crying because you feel so much love. So it's really that movement of love, how it's expressed through our genitals as well. And actually, our genitals are quite beautiful and interesting as well. They also can, like the very tip of the penis for a man and the very deep part of the vagina for a woman, the cervix, they are linked to the heart organ. So when we also activate this very deep penetration, we're also activating the heart, and it can send a lot of emotions and a lot of like intensity, not maybe during sex, but after, sometimes go through those like intense fights and everything. And sometimes it can be just a sign that the heart is getting purified. So there's so much, like it can be held in so much wisdom. You work with someone, or like you have the right practice, the right tools to go through it. Because it's just sometimes just opening of the heart that we don't know how to hold. And when in sexuality, sometimes this is what starts to happen. And then also the level on which we bond, for those people who just have casual sex or like have changed partners frequently or easily go into sex, like we don't recognize sometimes how deeply we connect our hearts and how hard it is to actually break those bonds, because it's a heart bond and it's deep stuff. Then the fifth level is the level of the throat. So this is where things get very, very mystical and very like hard to talk about. But on this level, it's related to element of ether, and so space. And love on this level for some people is like, ooh. But yes, actually you can. And in this type of lovemaking, it's where you become really, really spacious together, and you just let yourself move in the space, and the things kind of past, present, and future mix together. Everything is perceived in a more mystical way. It's like you look at your partner, but you actually see their mystical essence, not just the partner that you used to. That's the throat level. Then also you can make love at the level of the third eye, which is the sixth chakra. And on this level is like the ultimate level where we have any separation, any polarity between masculine and feminine. And when you make love on this level, is like through your partner you make love to all men if you're a woman, or through your partner you make love to all women if you're a man. Yeah, in your situation there. So it's like also it's like also the third eye is connected with seeing through veils of illusion. So seeing the very depth of that which is in front of you. So seeing the very essence of the masculine, the very essence of the feminine through your partner. There are positions, also sexual positions, that can help activate those levels. And then ultimately the seventh chakra, this is where you just merge into oneness together. And this is also absolutely possible in sexuality. Some people have the strongest experiences of oneness through sexuality. And still here, lovemaking can happen, but it's very cosmic. And then sometimes you can move or not move. It doesn't matter, but it's like you know that you are just one with everything.
Mm-hmm. So beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much. And I feel like this is something that I hear so much from women who have given birth, like in moms groups. I read this so much that they just don't like to have sex with their husband anymore. And they feel like they just have to endure it now, or they just have lost their fun in sexuality. And we also had a question from one of our followers on Instagram. And she said, I've never been a fan of sex or sexuality. What could be the cause of that? So what would be like your answer to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's say someone, she says, I'm just not really connected to all those sexual things. I don't really need it in my life so much. I don't really miss it. I'm totally fine. Sometimes it's quite rare. It can be the case when a person comes into that state of like an androgynous state. It's like when you have a total balance of feminine and masculine polarities. It's kind of the goal of yoga. It's like ultimate union. And then sometimes people are just kind of become this asexual being. There's like you feel so balanced inside of you. That's it. But it's really rare, like maybe one in a million. It's a rare case. Most often than not, and some people are not going to like to hear it, although if you are listening to this podcast until now, maybe you would, is normally it's an avoidance of trauma. And normally there is a trauma that is associated with sexuality somehow. And it can be sometimes a subconscious trauma, because with sexual trauma, it is so deep to our core. As we were speaking, sexual energy is at our very core, who we are as human, incarnated into this body. This body is made out of sex. So when we have a trauma on this level, it can be so dense and so deep and so subconscious. Some people, they cannot remember. And then when they start doing this work, sometimes I have this with some students, they come to me and they say, Sofia, something happened to me. Because I say, like, especially if it's at the age of 4 or 5, when we're really developing, it can be very vicious. And sometimes people say, they say, like, wow, I feel something happened, something went wrong there, but I don't remember. I don't have a conscious memory of it, but I know something happened there. And it's like, yeah, like, well, some things we won't remember, but then just going through it and working in it and knowing that you will have resistance come up, and you will have parts of you that say, it's not for me. I'm too old for it. I have other joys in life. It's the core energy of who we are. Like, if it's not totally unleashed, you will feel repressed in some parts of yourself. You will feel awkward. You will feel not confident. You will feel blocked in your ability to voice your truth. Yeah, because also our throat is connected with our sexuality. It's our expression. it's our creativity, creative energy. Sexual energy is also creative energy. And then when we cannot express ourselves, sometimes it's something blocked in the sexuality. So, like we have to get honest with ourselves. And sometimes we can on our own. Very often, more frequently than not, we need a mirror. We need an external support, be it a coach or be it a mentor or teacher or a friend or a beloved who can just really hold you and invite you to express yourself fully. So normally this is really the reality, and like a certain avoidance can take place where you're like, oh, I just don't want to go there. And it's like, okay, if you would go there and say like, okay, I've been there, I tried it, this is not for me, I feel totally at ease with everything, then okay. But if you didn't go and you didn't try, then I would question that.
Yeah, and I also wonder if it's because of, because we have this point of view about sexuality, and a lot of the sexual education that we receive is more of that root chakra sex, or the solar plexus sex that you were talking about, that is also often shown in porn, and the things that we're being educated about. And I wonder, it's especially also with women who have given birth and that was probably also in a sense a trauma in the sexual chakra. It was definitely a shift in that area for many. And I wonder if women just think, oh, I just don't enjoy these lower chakra sex lovemaking sessions anymore. But that's all there is. And so therefore I don't like sex anymore. And I wonder if it's, at least, for myself, I know that it was so important to dive deeper into the higher chakra sex, because even the pausing and the vulnerability and the deep emotional connection, and that actually is on such a different level in the way that it opens us up. And I love how you also say in your tantric workshop how women and men are actually stimulated in a different way. So can you touch on that for a little, because I find this like super interesting.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Thank you for bringing it up. Sometimes people don't enjoy sexuality because they don't actually know what is sexuality, or what is there available to sexuality. And exactly as you say, sometimes we just try to do it in a way that doesn't work for us. And then very often women are invited to go into sexuality either through your partner or by yourself, because you don't know any better, through a masculine gateway. And that doesn't work. And especially when you become more sensitive and more connected to yourself. And of course, when you give birth, you become very sensitive and more connected to yourself. And then some of those ways, they just won't work. Whereas like maybe when we are young and it's kind of normal to have sex without any kind of foreplay, you just get aroused and all horny and then ready for your partner. Then with time, as we rest more into the feminine, we understand that the feminine is like water, the feminine energy. And feminine sexuality is much like water. She takes time to boil. But then once she's boiling, she can keep boiling for a long time. But then how to make her boil is something that we have to take responsibility for as women, and also something that our partners need to be educated about. And how we take responsibility for it is by constantly making those waters boil. Yeah, so there's a lot of just responsibility on us to make ourselves feel alive, full of juice, full of joy for life. We need to learn to make our waters boil. Yeah, and don't only just give it to your partner, but explain to the partner that it's like, hey, like I need some time. And sometimes women need like 20 minutes or more to warm up. And then she can do it herself, and she can dance, and she can just be creative, and she can, do different practices to really juice herself up, activate her yoni, activate her breasts. And then also coming together with a partner, you need to go like, hey, like we need to cultivate this warmth together. Yeah, if you are ready and I'm not, it's just not going to work. So it's our thing. Yeah, it's beyond you or me. It's ours. So we need that for us. We need to bring the woman to the boil before we go into sex. Yeah, and then even with the boil, then it's true that sometimes knowledge that Brittany asked me to explain a bit about the chakras, then you're like, maybe you already hear it and it's like, wow, yeah, like I don't want to make love on the first chakra right now at all. It's just not up my alley. And it can be a phase in your life. It may last a month or two or a year or more that you're like, oh, it's just like, I just don't want to go there. It's just like this. Like, I just want to be met at the level of the heart. And then when you feel fully met at the level of the heart, then quite likely that you will again back to a bigger range. But that's something that like it's self-knowledge. Yeah, when you know yourself and you understand yourself, then you can also explain it to the partner.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is oh my gosh, it's been so vulnerable taking this course, because it has brought me to a place where I take so much more responsibility for my own sexual pleasure, and really opening up that gateway to communicate to my partner has been so vulnerable for me. And it's another beautiful facet of just how different all of us are, and how what a different place that all of us come from, and how what's a struggle for someone might be, you know, the easiest thing in the world for somebody else. But and even for our partner, because it's been so fascinating being able to open up about these really vulnerable you know, practices that I want to get into, or even just sharing the things that are working, like sharing the things that are so surprisingly like pleasurable, and oh my gosh, I love when this happens. And just being able to communicate that has brought just such a level of depth to the relationship that is something that I always knew that I was really like yearning for, and I had no idea how to bring it in. And you know, little do you know that communication, like, is the most important thing on every facet. And just when you think that it's like you got it down, there's like a new level of communication to explore, a totally different topic. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, I find that the relationship is one of the most profound spiritual paths that we can take, because you're constantly mirrored and you're constantly invited to level up in all parts of yourself, like how you express yourself, how do you make yourself feel heard. Yeah, like what is mirrored back, like what is really frustrating you, like why is it frustrating you. So it's always an opportunity to bring everything back in and just develop. And I speak a lot about tapas, this fire of tapas, of commitment. You choose a practice and you commit to it. And a relationship is much of a spiritual practice, a tapas. You choose this partner and you commit. And it's an ongoing process of committing. It's not that you've committed and started, but you're constantly moving towards them. And it's a fascinating, beautiful practice. So thank you for all of you who are choosing the relationship as a path and taking it consciously. I find it's a profound thing that we need more of in the world.
Yes. And especially, you know, the old paradigm of spirituality where the monks in the cave by themselves and going down that path. And I feel like now we're shifting into realizing, wow, we can have even a deeper spirituality in that sense, because with the partner together, because just as you were sharing, we have that mirror. And it can be even harder. I mean, honestly, I feel like sometimes if I was just living in the cave and would do my spiritual journey by myself, many things would be way easier.
Absolutely. It's different. It has different challenges, because then also there's a loneliness that can come in, when you're by yourself. It's a different challenge, but absolutely, some things are easier.
Yes, but then those little challenges, especially like having to be vulnerable and start communicating on that sacred level, on that deep secretive level too, those bring us the biggest benefits too. Like I noticed through this tantric workshop that we did with you, Sofia, or that we're still doing it because we're taking it really slow, step by step. We've developed a new language on like how we call our genitals, like how we call different parts of ourselves, like how, and it's interesting how it shifts the energy of lovemaking too when we just shift the language around it as well. And I feel like a lot of us just came from this place of, where we know it from porn and, the pussy needs to be tight. And I was just talking to that with my partner. I'm like, it's interesting that that's the way of talking about it, but actually the yoni is like a flower that is blossoming and that is opening up. And I don't want to hear that anything is tight. I'm like, I'm opening, right? Like I'm juicy and open. And it's just these like little pieces of language that are so ingrained in ourselves, that when we shift, we're also shifting the whole energy that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been really curious to know, Sofia, I know you're doing immersions all over the world and seeing so many people from different nations and holding space for so many people. I'm curious to know, what do you see happening in your workshops and immersions that's somewhat surprising to you?
I've been like really having so many trainings and being exposed to so many people. It's been, there's a lot coming up, in all sorts of areas. And I have a beautiful training where we really look specifically at the dynamics, because we're talking about this dynamic between masculine and feminine men, and it's called the module 3 of the Priestess School, or also module 3 of the Serpent Mystery School, where we have the truth trainings in parallel. So one training for men, one training for women, and then for about 60% of the time we are together. So men come and join the women in their temple, in the Priestess temple. And this is where we are really looking at what is that highest way of meeting between women. Because the priestess is that state, which is an archetype, which we all have inside of us as women, is that basically a state of connectedness with the divine. It's like all those words, they are always becoming confusion after a time. Same as the tantra word or the priestess word would may mean different things. But what it really means at its essence is that alignment with the divine. So how we as women, in our highest alignment with our true self, how do we meet men from this place? And same for men, when they really empower themselves and really anchor in themselves, in their warrior essence, in their priest essence, how do they meet women? So I find that this is a big challenge for all of us that we are discovering right now. And there's always things that come along the way, the judgment, all the things that we think about each other, like what do we expect from women, like all these ideas coming from porn, just as you were speaking, Hannah, like how our sexuality should look like. What is a sexy woman? What is a strong man? If a man is older, is he like, am I going to be repelled and disgusted? And when he is like coming from very like patriarchal place, like for example in the last training we had this, like when there was one man who was really masculine, basically really not connected to his heart. And this is normal for men. Masculine energy is like, masculine energy is not connected to the feeling. It's just very functional, very active, productive provider space. And then women are like, I hate this. And it's like, wait a second, what do you hate? You hate the masculine. Is it the way to harmonize it? No, we have to love the masculine and then see how do we invite them to feel, because feeling is the feminine domain. And how do we need to be so that they also remember their hearts as well and their capacity to feel. So for example, things like that are quite challenging and beautiful that we are choosing to explore it together. Because in isolation, it's really it's hard to move those things. Many people just kind of sitting by themselves and trying to figure out their relationships and why they attract the same pattern over and over again, and the same people are having those avoidant or unavailable patterns, or others who want so much attention from you, and you just have to like you cannot bear them anymore because they're too deep. All the patterns that we enter into. Much easier to explore them together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm curious to know what your piece of guidance would be for someone who's experiencing some super, super deep core vulnerability that they're having a really hard time feeling into, that may be inhibiting them with their partner.
How to process or how to voice it?
pressing past in terms of just, I guess, getting comfortable enough to open up in that way.
For example, vulnerability.
Oh my gosh. I guess it has to be a personal example. Okay, so something that I'm going through in this course is that I know that there are still so many things that I have not allowed myself to share, like especially so personal, but even self-pleasuring in front of my partner, or just really voicing deep things that I want to experience. And I don't know what it is inside of me, still probably such inner work, but just being able to come to a place of comfortability and to allow myself to be seen in such a vulnerable state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you for saying this and voicing here. It's easier to say to thousands of people, but one person whose opinion matters so deeply to you. Well, what matters first is the space in which you create it. And you know that we have this practice of creating a sacred space. So it's not like you are in the middle of something, busy with something, but it's you are creating a container for it. Yeah, so you go like, okay, we meet at 8:00. We take an hour or two for a date just for us. And then within that, you create, like you have a more space. And then you can, with the practice, I introduce you to the practice of fears, needs, desires. So it just depends on exactly what you want to focus, but then you have this thing to focus specifically on fears. And sharing fears is something that is very vulnerable, and at the same time, that's something that brings so much intimacy and so much connection if we can be heard in that. And then if you do it in the format like saying like, okay, each person has a goal, like you will share your fears, and then the other person will share their fears, and you will share your desires, they will share their desires, and then you will share your needs, and they'll share their needs. So in that format, you have this total undivided attention on you. So you can start by just sharing, okay, this is my fear. And you can say, wow, that feels really, really vulnerable to say. So I need your total presence with me and really hold me in that. So I just need you to hear that. And I just share, this is my fear, this is my vulnerability, this is what I'm scared of. Yeah, and then what do you need for that? And then it's like, oh, I just need to be heard. Actually, just saying this feels amazing, and it feels so liberating. I feel so much more energy flowing between us. And then the desire is like, oh, well, maybe we can try a baby step towards manifesting this desire, or overcoming this fear, or yeah. And then you can also really nail, like, okay, I'm really feeling self-conscious to self in front of my partner. Then you can look like, okay, why exactly? Because I am not very confident in my body. I think that maybe I'm a little bit overweight, and probably he is judging this. Yeah, and then you can voice those things, and it's so vulnerable, but it is so amazing. It is so liberating. But the key there is that when you are like turning it towards yourself, not that like, oh, you did not compliment me enough, you didn't tell me how gorgeous I am, so that's why I'm feeling like, but more like, wow, like I feel it that way. Or it can be another type, like a very beautiful frame to communicate to someone is where you say, when you do this, I feel this. Yeah, and this can be also very vulnerable, but it's such a non-violent way to also express ourselves. The other person doesn't take it as an attack. They just see it as your internal experience. And then in that, you're just sharing your heart. So, yeah, I find that's really, in relationships, if we're trying to be relating with this person, we want to constantly keep going deeper and keep finding those edges. Yeah, because being in the comfort, it's also nice sometimes to be in comfort, but then eventually, if you are too long in the comfort, you're going to be creating some stories to get yourself out of comfort. So why not do it consciously? And you can actually sit together and really address, like, okay, where are we avoiding sharp angles? Okay, where is the vulnerability? Where is that place where I'm like, oh my God, I really hope that he's not going to find out this about myself. And I was like, oh, okay. Let's breathe through this together. And this is amazing intimacy booster and also passion booster, actually. And you may feel like I've had some of the most amazing sex of my whole life after those kind of conversations where it's like I reveal something. I was like, oh my God, if I say that he gonna leave and run and fast. But then this is actually what's bringing intimacy.
Yes. Wow. And I resonate with this so much. And it's in your online tantric workshop that we're both doing, there is this vulnerability, creating consecrated space together. And it's just amazing to start the lovemaking with that sort of vulnerability, because we both started crying and laughing, and it went into like all kinds of emotions, everything that brings it up. So yeah. So besides the online tantric workshop that we've been talking about, and all your things that you do online, your amazing workshops that you're giving to the people, what else is coming up for you?
Well, now with our situation with coronavirus and all the things that's happening in the world, I had to rearrange some things. But still I have my 2 schools which are functioning. The Serpent Mystery School, which is like an in-depth program for men and women, and it has different modules. I'm also going to have a module that is only for men, specifically for men. But then possibly women will be involved in that too. So I'm still like playing with that. Then there are different modules that are specifically oriented on different things. Like there's this liberation and into orgasm workshop where we just really work on activating this orgasmic body. And then there's another one which is specifically for couples, or even if couple going to partner them up, and then we explore this fire of love, which is this practice that we kept talking about, the relational. It's like choosing, even if just for 4 days for the duration of the training, but it's like being with one person. So we have this scheduled in August. Yeah, so there's this school, and then the Priestess School, which is that very strong path for women to step into their leadership in life and in the world. And it's a 5-module program. Yeah, so these things are happening, and I have the first module in July happening in the Netherlands as well. And besides that, I'm really passionate about creating art and writing and expressing all this print we've been talking about, but in a way that can really reach people. And sometimes they can reach through those portals of art, because some people an online course which is called Tantra or Limitless Love, now I call this course, or will never go to a training and will never admit that they have anything they want to do to explore sexuality or something. But in fact, all this work is about developing consciousness, and by addressing sexuality, by going deep into this energy of life, we are growing and we are finding deeper freedom inside and deeper connectedness inside of us. And that real deep connection with something really deeply sacred. And I feel that that's what we really need right now in these times where everything is shaking. All the structures that we used to rest on is shaking. And it's going to be more and more like this, and more it's an invitation to turn in. So that's what I'm dedicating my work to, and have always been dedicating it to, and just want to find more ways now to express this love and the invitation for people to find that love.
Beautiful. So amazing. And so usually what we do by the end of each episode, we ask our guest 3 questions, which are called the sacred questions. So, and for this one, you can really just very quickly just say whatever comes up for you. Okay. So the first one is, what does sacred mean to you?
Sacred is my innermost self, the innermost self in all beings, the innermost essence. It's the divine, the universe, life, it's capital L.
Beautiful. And what does having a sacred sister mean for you?
Sacred sister is someone that I know who has seen me in my greatest strength, and someone who has seen me in my deepest vulnerability. And she is the one who can meet me and see me even when I cannot see myself.
Beautiful. And what are some ways that you turn something normal or mundane into something magical or sacred?
By seeing it through essence, by looking with clarity, with really clear eyes, and also with a really clear heart, then we recognize the sacred within everything.
Beautiful. And where can people find you when they want to start connecting with you now?
Well, welcome to my website, Sofia with F, sofiasundari.com, or I'm very active on social media, on Instagram and Facebook with my name, Sofia Sundari.
Perfect. And we'll put that information into the description of the episode. Did I see correctly on your Instagram story today that today is your name's day?
Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, happy name's day.
Thank you.
Happy Name's Day. Are you celebrating?
Well, I'm having a date with my beautiful beloved, so that's a celebration. And I'm talking to you, which is also a celebration.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for carving time out of your day to sit with us. This wisdom and knowledge that's come from you is so appreciated. You are changing lives, and we are so grateful that you are showing up for this work in the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.